This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance.
The military leadership in Niger forms a new government consisting of 21 members to lead the West African nation. An alleged classified document obtained by an American news outlet reveals Washington pushed to remove Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan from power last year. And the Ukraine conflict will top the agenda at an upcoming G20 Leaders Summit, according to the U.S. State Department spokesperson, despite other members seeking to focus on the global economic crisis. It is
Doors. This is our turf. Echo. Power on. And on.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Some things just make you feel more alive than others. Like the rush of adrenaline from an SUV that roars from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Jaguar delivers that thrill every day. The F-Pace, how Jaguar makes an SUV.
Will Turkey ratify Sweden's NATO membership? Stockholm says it can't fulfill all Ankara's demands. As the bloc's membership requires unanimous approval, what would make Turkey change its mind? And what does all of this mean for NATO's future? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. One of the many fallouts of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been that previously neutral Nordic countries.
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat. Kirk Rifles, thanks for joining along with us, Kurt. Here.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm happy to be in another electrified vehicle with you once again.
Yeah, we had a great time on the Prius drive last year, and happy to be back with you again. So it's a rainy day in Arizona, which is a sentence I wasn't expecting to ever say, but we have a nice drive here. We've been driving already a good bit of the day today, and but setting off in the Ioniq 6, one of the first things you'll notice about it is that it does feel very similar to the Ioniq 5. If you're used to those at all, it's very similar and does feel like you're kind of just driving a lower Ioniq 5. Like Cliff Notes, there's not a whole lot of surprises here.
Right.
That's kind of the bottom line. You have the same motor, the same battery pack, a lot of the same kind of controls, and throttle response, braking, all that kind of feels basically the same.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because I think the Ioniq 5, we're both really impressed with it, and so in this case, copy and pasting in some areas is actually a really good thing. You have the super fast charging like you get with the Ioniq 5, of course, all these being on the eGMP platform. Then as far as the unique things for the 6 here, so visibility is, obviously not quite as airy as it is in the Ioniq 5, but you still have a nice large windshield, good view out of the sides. View out of the back, I'd say, is actually better than the average sedan. A nice large...
Might be better than the EV6, if I remember right, too.
Yeah.
Might be.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also nice. I guess now they're going to probably fix the thing with the Ioniq 5 not having the rear wiper, but with this, I'm not seeing the rear window get super dirty like the Ioniq 5 had.
Nope.
But, really easy to drive, though. One of the really nice things is you have the option of the regen paddle, so you can have either a one pedal mode, or you can have, as much or as little regen as you want. It's really nice that it does offer you that, flexibility, and it's also fun if you live in a hilly area, ramping up the regen whenever you want to have more, and then, back off whenever you want to just coast around if you're used to gas vehicles and how they kind of, coast. And so, it's just a nice thing to drive here so far. It's also pretty nice and quiet. We were talking earlier in Kirk's video about how the ride quality seems to be definitely a little stiffer than the 5, which we were both expecting. This is, as a sedan in general, I feel like sedans typically have a slightly sportier buyer in some cases, at least for the smaller sedans. And so, I think that the stiffer ride is appropriate, but I wouldn't even really call it stiff. I call it like maybe firm and sporty. I guess,
it's firm.
a little bit.
You feel you feel the road.
Yeah.
It's the best. It doesn't feel harsh or anything.
Yeah.
And it does. We went over some big speed bumps earlier, and it handled it really well. Suspension sorted it out.
Yeah.
It's just it's not like a luxury car, smooth, buttery smooth, or anything like that. Like it's quiet in here, but it doesn't feel like I said, a luxury car.
Yeah. Which I think is okay. You know, I mean, yes, this is getting up to electric car prices, but you know, that's what the GV60 is for, and the G80 electrified and stuff for those who do want, you know, extra. So I think they did a nice blend here of, you know, how they set it up. And as far as other suspension stuff goes, you have a multi-link suspension in the rear there. One notable difference between this and the 5 is that the wheelbase is 2 inches shorter, even though this vehicle overall is, I think, 8.5 inches longer than the 5. And so that will change the character a little bit, unfortunately, with these rainy roads. You know, we don't have a ton of opportunities to really push this safely a whole lot, but, you know, I think that could potentially make this even a little more tail happy than the 5, which I was able to get the 5 to step out on me, you know, on the corner exit at home, and so I'm excited to be able to push this a little bit more in the future. But with this all-wheel drive version, you do have, you know, the usual dynamic torque split. It gets a little sportier in the sport mode, it'll go 50-50 in snow mode, and then you have, you know, it'll actually default to 2-wheel drive if you're going for the eco mode, or if you're, you know, taking it easy in normal mode. So they do have a
that motor.
way.
Yeah, that motor disconnect was impressive when they were talking about from 2 different advances. Motor disconnect on the front, it's about 5 or 6% energy efficiency improvement, and then silicon carbide semiconductors also helped out 5 to 6% as well. So the efficiency on this thing is right at the top of the class.
And it's impressive that it's, you know, it means that you don't have to take quite the penalty for all-wheel drive like you do with some other vehicles, where the range drops so much more when you go for an all-wheel drive one. This, it's like, yeah, this is 270 in the rear-wheel drive version. For this trim, I believe, is 305. So, you know, yeah, you lose out on, you know, 30 or 35 miles or whatever, but it's not huge, you know, and so, you know, I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with that. Like you said, with the disconnect and stuff, it's just nice. You can kind of have your cake and eat it too in some ways.
For sure. Yeah, especially if you get in like the smaller wheels. The all-wheel drive with the smaller 18-inch wheels, and you have a little bit of everything. You'll have a softer ride as well.
Yeah.
You'll have the acceleration if you want that all-wheel drive. Get a cheaper price point too.
Yeah.
The only thing, I guess looks maybe, but you know, we talked about earlier, the 18s still look pretty decent.
Yeah.
You know, wheel designs are strong still.
I think just the problem is if you want the 18s, you got to go to the lower trims. You can't get that on the Limited here.
Right. No bows,
so,
no ventilated seats,
and even no heated steering wheel. That's only on the Limited too. So like I wish that they maybe, I don't know, I don't think they have any option packages to upgrade.
I didn't see any when I was in the builder, but I didn't.
But that would be great to see, is like see an SEL with a premium package, or see something to give you the capability of most of those niceties that you might be expecting from a $50,000 car, but still give you the 18-inch wheels. I mean, obviously, you know, you're not bound by what the manufacturer offers as far as wheels go. That's the easy thing, is it's much easier to change wheels than add heated seats or whatever, you know, so like...
Yeah, you'd have to put like a seat cover on and make it ugly. And
so, you know, I think it's fine, you know, get a Limited and just go down to some smaller wheels, and you would probably, who knows what the rated range will be, but it should be better, you know? And like I said, I think this has the potential to even overperform as well.
I think so. If the conditions are right, I think this thing could get close to maybe 400 miles. I think you could hypermile it close to 400.
Yeah, because I mean the long range rear-wheel drive, with the 18-inch wheels, 361 miles of range is what they're quoted. That's the top range ratings for these, and that's also partially thanks to the good aerodynamics you get on all of these. But
and the Ioniq 5 and EV6 typically overperform their ratings. The time is 2:12 as well. So.
So I mean,
it's impressive for such a small battery, right? 77.
But seriously, that's not enormous, you know, these days with everything else out there. And so yeah, I think it's pretty well done job as far as that goes, and also the fact that it's not even that big of a deal when you have to recharge because of the 800 volt thing.
18 minutes.
Which again, if you're road tripping, like get a Hyundai or a Kia, or I guess a Tesla. But it's like those three, unless you can spend Porsche money and Audi money. Otherwise, you know, this is it. Like, it beats everything else just on that recharge. 18 minutes from 10% to 80%. like game over.
Yeah, that's one of the strongest advantages for the GMP platform. Like Hyundai was smart from the get-go to go straight to 800 volts, and then they can work on the rest after that. And we're already seeing in this, just 1 year later after Ioniq 5, they've made some improvements with efficiency already. So this is crazy.
But other things here, so steering is nice and a little bit heavier, I think, compared to the 5. That is one thing that I can say is different as far as tuning goes. But I'm going to go ahead and put it up into the sport mode here. Let's turn down onto this back road and see how the Ioniq 6 does. I got some wet roads here, but here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. Gets up and goes pretty nicely here. So with the Limit all-wheel drive version here, we have 320 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque, a 5.1 second 0 to 60, and so I mean it's punchy. If you go to the rear-wheel drive versions, there's 2 different setups, but the mid-grade one that most people will get for rear-wheel drive is going to have 225 horsepower, I believe, and 258 pound-feet of torque, and that's like a 7.4 second 0 to 60. So big downgrade in the power there. Still average performance for, you know, commuter vehicles and stuff, but this one is properly quick, and especially in sport mode, it really ramps up quickly with the power here. So what do you think of the power, Kirk? Is it impressive even in the passenger seat here?
Yeah, like here's the thing with EVs. Yes, it only has like what, 310, 320 horsepower, something like that. It's so much more impressive in electrification than it is in a gasoline engine. To get 300 horsepower in a gasoline, especially naturally aspirated engine, you're waiting for the revs to build, and there's never that instant where you're just shoved in the back of your seat. Like the immense amount of torque instantly and almost instant power as well. You never get used to it, and it's always surprising. Yeah. Like we were talking about it earlier, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride, and you feel your insides moving. Even though this isn't the fastest EV out there, it's still faster than 99% of gas cars out there. Like 5 seconds 0 to 60 is faster than anyone needs to go on a daily basis. So it's definitely going to be there for people who want to have some fun from time to time. But heck, my daily is a Prius, so I'm happy like with a 7.5 0 to 60 on the rear wheel drive.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the great thing with the electric thing is, you know, it doesn't get old. Like some people are like, yes, it's a one-trick pony, but it's still fun. Like the G's still always make an impression on you. It's still
always rip it.
It's still it's always exciting, and that's also going back to the gas thing. You know, it's like you have the instant power, so you're going to have a perfect launch every time, which isn't guaranteed in a gas car. You know, so I mean, yeah, it's really fun. Of course, they do have the ends coming and stuff.
Oh, right. The high performance. Yep. You know, I think the battery packs are going to be similar in size. Of course, the range is going to go down with more performance tires and whatnot.
True.
But we look at the EV6, like, you know, mid-3, somewhere around there, 0 to 60. Yeah. Things, let's take it to the it's amazing what electrification can do with not a lot of extra engineering. Just look at bigger electric motor. Here we go.
Yeah. It's actually impressive, though, because this whole day we've been driving around here, it's rated at 270 miles, but we started out the day that it was telling us over 300 miles of charge. And, you know, as we've been driving here, it seems like we're getting about 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour. So it seems like it's averaging out to be pretty close to that 270 estimate in driving. But I mean, we have also been getting on hard. We've been driving in rain all day and stuff.
Hills and going slightly uphill too to get to some parks and whatnot, like going up to the mountains a little bit.
So yeah, we're definitely draining the battery, I think, a little more. So the fact we're still basically looking like we're going to get out almost over 200 miles or 270 miles of range, I think it's, you know, it has a strong potential to overperform even if you don't get those small wheels. All right, so we don't have too many corners to try out here on this part of the drive, but what I can say over these you know, little bumps that we have here and some of the other cornering that we were experiencing earlier in the day is that it definitely feels nice and flat. I'm going to have to, again, wait to push it on my local roads, but it feels very flat and stable, very reassuring and confidence inspiring, and I don't know, I just feel like it feels very, very capable to me. And it's also, we're using this sound design right now, and it's this thing you can have it louder or quieter. This is actually the medium setting. There's even a louder setting that I feel like is like Hellcat levels of like volume. And so it's cool, but it feels like it's not really super connected to the gas pedal. And so it's like, I hit the gas, and it like kind of makes a little more noise, but then I'm completely off the gas and it's still making a bunch of noise. So it's I don't know, like usually other systems that do this kind of thing, it's directly related to your speed and your throttle input. And this isn't as much. Okay, well there it is. Now it's kind of...
I think it's really there for continuous acceleration. I think we would be rewarded for that, but unfortunately we don't have like unlimited speed limits, you know.
Right. Yeah. But it feels good though otherwise. I mean, I really like some in sport mode again here. And the steering is nice and stiff. And these actually, they're fairly weighted. These, for a fully loaded limited here, you're at 4,616 pounds. The lightest versions are just under 4,000 pounds. And then, you know, the all-wheel drive adds a couple hundred pounds. But so, I mean, they will vary by 600 pounds depending on how you set them up. But, I mean, with the low center of gravity with the battery, you're running 245 wide, probably all season tires here, and the Nero tires, a little bit on the sportier side. But I mean, so the 245 wide, you know, gives you good meat. A lot of other electric vehicles go skinnier, like Mach-E goes skinnier, and so I mean, having so having good range and still 245 wide tires is really impressive. I think
it's a good balance.
But so I'm not going to be able to play around with the rear bias of this system because none of these corners are tight enough to punch it out of a corner and feel anything. But you do have torque vectoring, of course, with the all-wheel drive system, and so that's going to give this a dynamic feel as well. And so overall though, I mean, I think it handles really well.
I have no issues with the performance of this car.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a nice improvement over the 5 too, because you're rewarded. Yes, the ride's a little stiffer, but you're rewarded with, you know, sharper handling, and I can certainly feel like I can toss this around more than the 5 with more confidence. The 5, it's like I can do it. It's like, wow, this is crazy. I can do it. But this, it's like I'm like low to the road. I can just tear it up and have total confidence.
This gives me a lot more confidence than the 5.
Also, as far as safety tech goes here in the Ioniq 6, you of course have all the usual Hyundai Safety Suite stuff as standard. So you have automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring is standard, all those, you know, typical things with rear cross traffic alert, all that does come standard on every Ioniq 6. Some of the stuff is reserved for the higher trims though, so if you want, like, there's a forward collision avoidance assist, so that will actually do evasive steering if like someone comes over into your lane and you're not reacting, like it can steer away automatically, and those types of advanced features are only here on these top trims. Also the blind view monitor, the surround view cameras, all those things are also only on the limited here. But otherwise, you know, I mean, a really good amount of safety tech. You also have a highway drive assist 2.0 here in the SEL and the limited. If you go for the base trim, then you only have highway drive assist 1, so it's the older version of that system. And with the second generation here, it's going to give you the auto lane changes, but that still needs to have your hands on the wheel, and you have to be the one that does the lane change. It doesn't do it automatic, it just assists you with that. And it's kind of slow. I've tried it in, you know, the Genesis stuff, and it's like almost not even worth bothering with.
I don't bother with them, even in other manufacturers either.
I'm gonna have to wait till I get one of these back at home to really test it. Because I've been frequently let down by the lane keep assist systems in Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis. So we'll see if this one's any different. So stay tuned and subscribe for that video if you want to, you know, see what that's like with a follow-up. But you know, still solid safety tech nonetheless. So the last two things I mentioned here about the Ioniq 6 are the range and efficiency numbers, and also the pricing and how it compares to the competitors. So first off, as far as range goes and the efficiency, so obviously your efficiency will vary depending on your climate, where you're driving, how you're driving. It is great though that these do have a heat pump, so they're going to be a little bit better in the wintertime compared to some of the other you know, competitors out there that might not have the heat pump. And the range and the estimates for all the efficiency stuff will vary depending on which trim, which wheels, all those different things. So I will list those on the screen there and have the breakdown of all the different ranges. But I mean, at the very worst, you get 270 miles of range. The very best, 361 miles of range, which is very impressive for both metrics, honestly, for the amount of power you have. So I think efficiency is top notch. That really helps, especially having the focus of the great aerodynamics. They really wanted to maximize that efficiency. So I don't think anyone's going to be let down by the efficiency in these. But then the last thing I mentioned is that price. And so as far as the pricing goes, these start just under $43,000 in including destination. For the base SE standard range, which gives you the smaller battery, it's only available in that base trim. And then if you go up beyond that, you know, the regular SE with the larger battery, which gives you that top 361 miles of range with the rear-wheel drive version, those are going to run you about 45 or so, and then they go up from there. And they're all pretty well equipped. Like I said, you have blind spot monitoring is standard, these screens are standard, you know, lots of good, you know, standard stuff. But, you know, they do reserve, like I said, some of the core luxury features you're probably expecting at these higher price points for this limited version only. So this one, fully loaded, is just over $57,000. And the limited is the only way you get a heated steering wheel. It's the only way you get ventilated seats. It's the only way you get a moonroof.
Bose? Is it the only way you get Bose as well?
Yeah, it's the only way you get the Bose as well. And so they really are locking you out of a lot of big things.
Yeah.
I mean, things that you can get a heated steering wheel in a Sonata for not very much money. You can get a cooled seats and, you know,
here's the thing, yeah, you can get
much.
all this tech in a Sonata hybrid and get 50 miles per gallon, and you'll save at least 10 grand.
Yeah,
at least.
And so that's kind of one of the problems here with this. Now, it's obviously, it's I guess not fair to compare it to gas powered stuff, because of course you're paying the premium for the electric, and you're, I'm assuming, you know, prepared for the fact that you're paying a premium for the electric. You might not make that up, you know, with gas savings.
Right.
It is still kind of a luxury thing, and, you know, the installation of a level 2 charger is extra money. There's some costs associated with getting into an EV for sure. Yep. But whenever we are comparing it to other EVs, the main two competitors, really, there's only two. It's the Tesla Model 3 and the Polestar 2. And I would say for both of those, this has a good value component to it, because, you know, Polestar comparably equipped is going to be over 60 grand compared to this limited, you know, 57.
Yeah. Those other two do provide higher levels of performance,
right,
for the money.
That's really the one thing, is I think Tesla still has it beat. If you want fast performance, that 3.1 seconds 0 to 60 in the Model 3 Performance.
It's just silly.
For 55 grand, assuming you don't need autopilot or enhanced autopilot or the full self-driving thing that isn't full self-driving. If you're into that stuff, then you're going to be paying way more than these prices. But, you know, you can theoretically get a 3.1 seconds 0 to 60 Tesla for 55 grand or so. So, I mean, that is, I think if you're an enthusiast, that still is going to call out to you more, but there's a lot of compromises there. The Tesla has no smartphone integration, you have none of the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you don't have the cooled seats like I mentioned, you don't have like gauges in front of you.
Yeah, you don't have,
so many compromises.
Like common creature comforts are just not there.
Yeah. And so, you know, obviously it comes down to personal preferences and all that, but I think that this has some stuff that you don't get in the others, so that yes, maybe the performance isn't,
and you're not going to look like every other Tesla on the road. I think that's just like a big draw to this vehicle. It stands out. I know people have been looking at this car. People say over and over it looks like a Porsche, like, and those are not enthusiasts. Those are just common people we ran into saying it. That has a lot going for it, and it's a crazy efficiency. Even if you're not using all the range all the time, over time, with the amount of, you know, dollars per kilowatt that you're spending, like, it just makes a lot of sense as well next to the competition. It's very efficient.
I think that they've priced this pretty well. You know, I think a lot of cars these days, especially the EVs, some of them are way too high with the price. I think this is, you know, pretty spot on where it needs to be.
And they priced it pretty similar to where the EV6 is and the Ioniq 5, and those seem to be selling well, so why change it?
So, and I guess that is the final thing, is, you know, you do pay a premium for the sedan thing, because obviously the Ioniq 5 gives you, you know, the panoramic roof, which this doesn't have. It gives you the heads-up display, that this doesn't have. It gives you the extra practicality. So you're paying for the sporty thing here with the Ioniq 6 a bit. So, you know, I'd say the 5 is probably still a slightly better value, probably, but, you know, for someone who wants the sedan, again, there's very few to pick from.
Very few sedans to pick from. Personally, I would be picking an Ioniq 5 over the Ioniq 6, but I'm happy Hyundai keeps, and Kia and all the Korean automakers.
The Russia visit is being looked at as a decision by the Prime Minister.
So what exactly does he mean when he says all will be forgiven over the visit to Moscow? Well...
right, so setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat. Eric from RevMax TV. Thanks for joining us, Eric, and riding along here. We're drive partners on this trip today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on the OG YouTuber car channel.
You're too kind. But so anyway, yeah, we're gonna head out here and we have a few little drive loops. We're gonna test out some features here in the Prius Prime, but I mean the main thing here with the Prime is that you have the electric range. That's the big improvement. Many of you loved the Prius, whenever we covered that here just a few months ago, and so now with the Prime, the big main headline thing here is that in the SEs you get 44 miles of electric range, 39 here for the XSE. We're in a regular XSE, there's also an XSE Premium, and then the SE, so we're kind of in the mid-grade here. So, but I mean that's, you know, enough range for everyone to do their daily commutes in, and it's, you know, impressive too because you get a horsepower bump, which we'll talk about here in a second when we do an acceleration. But so it's extra power, the great electric range, and you still get really good fuel economy, even though you're gaining about, they say about 100 pounds, 96 pounds. It's honestly, for adding a bigger battery and the extra motor and stuff, I mean, I'm impressed that it's, you know, only 96 pounds heavier, honestly.
And what's really impressive compared to the last generation, I was talking with the chief engineer, he said that they tried to hit the weight of the last generation, the weight target, but they couldn't quite get it. They were a little bit higher, I think about 60 pounds or so more than the last generation. But you can talk about the refinement. What you're getting for those extra few pounds is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we talked about with the regular Prius, whenever, you know, we covered that, it's so nice in here. I mean, so much, I think, firmer and sportier with the ride quality, but also just more comfortable in general. It's less, you know, sloppy than the last generation was, and the last generation was fine. It was just set up to be very soft, and I think this kind of is a nice blend of the sportiness and the smoothness, and it's also really quiet in here. I mean, some Toyotas can be a little noisier, but this one is really impressive with the quietness.
There's so much more refinement in here than the last generation. I think that's the one thing that I really noticed. That was just a more basic, more economy kind of vibe. This just feels like they've really upgraded the thing and really brought their A game forward, and it just feels like this is now in line with the rest of the Toyota products. So it's like the interior, the ride quality, all that is like really a big step up.
Right, and so part of that's thanks to the, you know, the TNGA-C platform, which is shared with the Corolla as well. But I mean, in this here, I mean, it gives you a lower center of gravity, extra rigidity, all those things to really help any vehicle to drive better and also be more comfortable. So it's kind of the best of all the worlds as far as an improvement. And so, you know, we're in EV mode right now, and so it has a few different modes. There's an auto mode, which will, you know, intelligently go between the electric and the hybrid functions, and then there's also, of course, dedicated EV mode if you want to keep it in that. And it is going to try and drain the battery as the priority, and give you the most efficient drive possible. And so I'm going a good bit. The gas engine is not kicking on, so you can, even in auto mode here, you can get on the gas, and that's the nice thing is they improved this electric motor. I think it's 161 horsepower on its own, so you can actually do your full daily drive in electric mode, and that's huge. Some people are disappointed there isn't an electric, a fully electric Prius. This is kind of a fully electric Prius for 99% of most people's usage cases, I feel like, you know, because how many people do actually go more than 44 miles every day for their daily commutes?
Yeah, most people, I think the statistical average is about 40 miles is the maximum, so if you're commuting back and forth, you can do it completely on electricity now for the first time because it's a plug-in.
Yeah.
And it charges up overnight without any issue. You can use 120, or you can put in a level 2 charger, and that's going to charge in about 4 hours in the level 2. I think about 11 hours on the 120. And that's, we were just talking about the gas prices now when we did my drive, and you know, they're around $3.50 where you are per gallon. They're about $5 here. Gas prices ain't going down.
Yeah.
They're not going down.
Right. So they're just taking off from the light. It did kick on the gas engine there. So, you know, if you do really want to make sure you drain that battery first and foremost, you can go ahead and put it in that EV mode.
For a lot of people, full electric is just not really that good an option, especially if you live in a rural area. This is going to work basically in, you know, all conditions.
And also, like what they were saying, which is a very valid point, they make a good point where they said we could put out 7 or 8 of these Prius Primes, or we could use those same battery materials to make one of the average EV on the road with an 80 to 100 kilowatt hour battery. And, you know, if everyone's only doing 44 miles anyway, every day or less, then you kind of get that EV thing. You have that electric commute for everyone, but you're using way less materials to do it. And Toyota really thinks that's the smarter way to go about that, and I tend to agree that, it makes more sense. You get more of these out there with less materials, and I think it's going to really be a benefit to Toyota down the road with all these supply constraints on battery components. With something like this, they can still keep churning them out because you only have a 13.6 kilowatt hour battery here in this. But like we said, that's enough for all your commuting and plenty of power too. So we're at another red light here, so I'm going to go ahead and put it up into just dedicated electric mode here, and we'll do a little acceleration. So I'm like 3/4 throttle there. And I mean, we just got up to 40 miles per hour, no problem. Traffic's way behind us. You can still smoke people in this thing even in electric mode. So, so if you really do want to make sure you do prioritize that battery, then just put it in that electric mode. And then, I think you have plenty of power. And I'm definitely excited to do an acceleration here, though, and see when it gives you the full 220 how that feels. But yeah, I think it's still plenty of punch. It's certainly so much better than all the old plug-in hybrids that, like, if you had a whisper of a headwind, or you had, any kind of uphill grade, it just would not even, it'd be like, all right, we're going to kick on the gas engine. And this thing, you actually have solid electric punch.
There's so much more power in this than the last generation. It's sort of hard to explain it on video.
Yeah.
There is way more range and way more torque in this motor too. I actually haven't stated the torque figures on the electric motor, but clearly it's pretty strong here. But on broken pavement, it feels quite good. It seems to absorb the bumps with a lot of compliance, without a lot of drama. You don't get a lot of impacts coming into the cabin.
Yeah.
It feels like nicely damped. Like this is, there's another one.
Yeah. And they did say that, they did some suspension tuning changes, but of course that's mostly just to compensate for the extra weight of the battery. So I feel like handling-wise is pretty consistent to what you get with the regular Prius. Another thing handling-wise I guess we can kind of mention is, as we're driving through this wet part of the road here, you only have front-wheel drive with the Prius Prime. So they were asked why they didn't do all-wheel drive, and it's just a packaging thing between, trying to fit in a gas tank, a battery pack, and a rear electric motor. It's just too much to ask. They can't fit all that in. So that's the reason why the all-wheel drive is only on the regular Prius and not here on the Prime. But, I mean, as long as you're taking it, relatively easy, as long as it's a ton of power, you have nice skinny tires, which should help you if you are in a snowy place. I'm sure it'll be fine for most people. But it is great, you're not giving up that much, with the regular Prius all-wheel drive. You're only down, less than 25 horsepower. I guess you don't have the electric range, but you still have fantastic fuel economy. That's a great option if you must have that all-wheel drive. But now we got some actual proper corners here. Okay, so it really, especially here in sport mode, it wanted to really, scoot out of that corner really nicely. And it just feels so flat and composed. I mean, I'm just so impressed with how this feels. It's
there's not much body roll.
Yeah. Yeah, and also helps run these 19-inch wheels, which is what you get on the XSE and the XSE Premium. You will go down to 17s on the SE, and that's how you get the best fuel economy and also the best electric range, of course. But, I think these 19s, though, are a nice balance. They look great. These 19s are exclusive here to the XSE and the Prime version in general as well.
And for the first time, there's actual feel in a Prius, in the steering system. You can actually feel what the tires are doing a little bit.
Yeah, which is a huge improvement for the Prius and just makes for a really good car in general. And that combined with throttle response is really, again, very impressive here, especially in sport mode with that electric motor giving you instant zap there to really just give you on-demand power immediately. Brakes also feel pretty good here in sport mode and up at speed. So at lower speeds, it can, be a little bit odd, but honestly, it's pretty consistent most of the time as far as, it blends all the regen. You can do different regen modes. There's no one pedal mode here in the Prime or in any Prius for that matter, but there are a few different regen settings. You can have it a little bit more aggressive, and it will save that between key cycles if you are someone who likes a lot more regen, or if you want to coast a little bit more. There is a setting in the screen where you can custom tailor that. There's also a custom drive mode where you can set things up to exactly how you want them to be as well. But as far as just basic, handling stuff goes, other things, it's about 3,571 pounds here for a top fully loaded one. Again, this mid-grade might be a little bit lighter. You go down about 100 pounds, be under 3,500 pounds for an SE. And so, I mean, that's also commendable these days with, cars ballooning in weight. The fact of this kept the weight gain very minimal, and you have so much extra stuff, extra power. I think it's just very, very impressive. And it feels nice too. I mean, on these corners now, it feels nice and light, nice and low, since you are lower than the previous gen Prius, and it just honestly feels good. We were talking in your video about, comparisons of the Civic Si, which this is faster than, by the way. It's not like you can push this as much as the Civic Si and you have less tire, but that's something you could fix easily if you want to do wider tires and give up some range in MPG, you can. And I feel like this on the same tires as an Si, like it wouldn't be far off. Like, yes, you don't have the mechanical limit slip diff and the stiffer tuning of the Si, but for the average person that's not canyon carving on a daily basis, this gets close enough that if you want an automatic SI that's actually faster, I think there's a case to be made here. Call me crazy, but
I think you're right. I mean, the thing with the Civic is it's a manual and it's a much more sort of tactile, engaged car. So if you want that, absolutely. But if you need something that is going to be a little bit more all-around, especially in terms of economy, this handles really well. And you're right, with fatter tires on here, I think this would be pretty good in a canyon, to be honest. Yeah, you could probably put in some roll bars in here and tune the handling. There's nothing to be upset about at all with the handling in this compared to the last generation. This is like a revelation.
Yeah. I mean, we're enthusiasts, and I have no complaints with the dynamic qualities of this vehicle. I think it's actually pretty fun, pretty engaging. I would happily have one of these as a daily driver. And even again, if it's your only car and you want something fun, yes, this isn't going to be as satisfying to, pull, do a 0 to 60 like you would in a Civic Si or something without the manual and all that. But speaking of 0 to 60 though, we are in a place where there's no one around basically, and we have a nice straight bit of road here. So let's do an acceleration finally and see how it does. And we're in auto mode, and here we go. All right, a little bit of a second there where I think there's limiting power, and then it pulls nicely. It's a strong amount of power. So they're claiming a 6.6 seconds 0 to 60. Yep. It is 220 horsepower total from the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which does have the dual injection. It runs on 87 to get those numbers. You don't need any kind of special gas. But 6.6 seconds, which I also have to add for anyone who's coming out of the old Prius Prime. This is going to feel like a rocket ship compared to the old one. You're talking about almost a 4-second faster 0 to 60. Tell me another car in automotive history that from one generation to another is almost 4 seconds faster than 0 to 60. I don't think it's ever been done until the Prius and the Prius Prime. Maybe it's an odd bragging right, but it's just like, and it even, it does a little bit of torque steer, a little bit of, just chirping the tires, and it's just really, I don't know, I'm actually having a lot of fun here driving this thing, and I can only imagine, I'd love to see some type of GR version someday that could be even more exciting, but even as this is, it is really great.
It's surprisingly quick. It will put a lot of cars to shame, and especially with the economy that you're getting here.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's tough to argue with.
Is there a traction control? Oh, there is traction control, so you could turn it off if you wanted to.
Yeah, we got another turn coming up here.
A little more squeal action.
Yeah, we'll try that out and see. And that also might help with limiting the power limits. It did feel a little bit of a torque limit there when I first stomped on it, but still, again, feels very punchy. And again, still faster than the Civic Si by like a half a second faster. We're not talking about a tenth of a second or something. Like, those are like, 7.1 seconds, which is about what the regular Prius will match as well, about a 7 seconds 0 to 60. But this 6.6, and like you mentioned, that's even not far off from like the GR86 and stuff these days.
Right.
So
yeah, the GR86 is, when the automatic is like around 6.2, something like that.
Yeah.
Fight me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Alright, traction control is turned off. And wait for the traffic to clear here a little bit. Here we go.
Let's get crazy.
All right. Well, it did a little bit of like a hopping thing there, where I feel like it actually did cut traction control still a little bit and came back on and off. It was confused a little bit.
It was confused.
But it was spinning the tires. So, yeah, if you are an enthusiast, make sure you have some budget for some tires, because this thing is more than happy. It's not going to roast them like, I don't know, something else like a Accord 2.0T with no limit slip or anything. But it is enough power that we are roasting the tires in a Prius. It's just like, what a world we're living in. It's truly impressive.
It was interesting. That was all the electric motor limiting your slip there. Basically, when I felt there was too much slip, it's like,
Yeah, let's keep dialing you back.
Cut the power.
That's so funny.
That was interesting. What I like about this combination, so you've got the electric motor and you've got the 2-liter gas engine, and you get a lot of torque right off the line because it takes a second for the engine to get into its power band, but it's pretty quick because of the CVT. And then you got all that electric torque at the same time too. It's really quite, off the line is actually where it's quite impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like any other EV, that's always the thing, plants you in your seat. That's the impressive thing, is just how, that instant 100% torque at 0 RPM, is always the impressive thing. And now climbing hills, you can certainly hear that engine some more, and it is one thing, this runs an eCVT, and so the eCVT certainly will still do the thing where it kind of holds the 1 RPM, and does its thing to, sort out the best efficiency. And I mean, for a vehicle like this where you want the most efficiency, it makes sense. They're not going for the most audibly pleasing character, but it's still, it's one little minor thing that's, not amazing about these.
Yeah, it's not an engine sound that inspires enthusiasts to, rally around, go, we want more of that.
Yeah, although I'd love to hear one of these with an exhaust, just being the crazy, tuner in me, like wanting that, I think it'd be kind of fun. Just someone's got to do it. Put an exhaust on one of these and see how it sounds.
Somebody will do it.
Yeah.
But what I do like is the whirring sounds of the electric motor combined with the gas motor. That actually sounds kind of neat to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a little bit stronger than it is in the regular Prius too. And also, whenever you do want to slow down in one of these, one thing that's important to note is the brakes are the same as the regular Prius. Even though you have a little bit more performance, a little more weight, brakes are the same 11 inches. And interestingly though, you get larger brakes on the front of the all-wheel drive one. They're 12-inch rotors in the front there. Here on Prime says it's front-wheel drive, just gets the front-wheel drive brakes, which means 11 inches instead. And it's still a light vehicle, still not going super fast or anything, so totally sufficient braking. I haven't had any issues as far as the strength of the brakes. And really great though with this nice tight corner coming up here. Okay, see, I pushed a little bit, but honestly, it's not too bad. I think the handling is really impressive. We got a few more nice little spaghetti winding roads here. We can test out the handling a little bit more. And also, it's great you have, all right.
Yeah.
This thing, wow, it powered out of the corner. Wow, that was impressive. Yeah, I'm standing by my assessment that this is a good alternative to the Civic Si. If you want an automatic and better fuel economy, this is this is really good. And this road is fantastic. That certainly helps. But I mean, man, I'm having a lot of fun in this. You also have independent rear suspension and stuff. So I mean, it's pretty sophisticated as far as the platform and the chassis and the suspension and everything. And so, yeah, I think this thing, especially you put some better tires on it, if you don't mind sacrificing efficiency, you could really have something here. I almost want to do a Prius build because this is inspiring me. Like, I want to see what this platform can do because it seems so good. And I really hope they do some type of GR version someday because I think that could be really, really cool.
I think the underlying platform is really a huge step up from the last generation here, because now we're on the TNGA C platform, this architecture, and there's just a lot more weld points in here. It's just a stiffer structure, and so that gives Toyota a lot more flexibility to tune the suspension in a more sporting way without losing any of the ride quality. In fact, the ride quality is better in here than the old Prius, right?
Yeah, I think so. So it's really, really impressive. And yeah, but then whenever you are settling down, you're not hooning around like we are, you can get really good fuel economy too. I mean, you don't give up much compared to the regular Prius. So these are rated, if you're going for an XSE with these bigger wheels, you're doing about 50, I believe, in this city, and I think combined you're a little bit under that. But they do max out at 52 mpg combined for the SE there with the smaller wheels. And so, I mean, that's not far off. It's only a couple mpg compared to the other, non-plug-in hybrid Prius. And so,
right,
yeah.
and that's, if you're using the gas engine all the time, so that's presuming that you can't plug in.
Yeah.
But most times, you're going to be able to plug in, and you're going to be getting infinite MPG because you're not going to be using any gas at all. So conceivably, you could get this and you could drive around for a couple of months, and the engine's probably just going to turn on every now and then just to cycle through the gas tank. But you could drive this thing without using gas for quite a while.
Yeah, and then even more so if you have the solar roof, which is one of the other things we haven't mentioned yet. This has a solar roof option. It's only on the top XSE Premium as an option on that. So, even a regular XSE Premium doesn't come with it standard. But if you do get it, I think they said like 185 watts, and they gave a rough estimate of what was around 700 miles over the course of a year in ideal circumstances.
Right, about 775. So, we can assume that would be like sitting out in sunny California all day long.
Right. But that's really cool that, you have that extra little bit. I don't think we saw pricing for that option, at least I don't recall.
No.
But, as long as it's priced reasonably, that is a really great option. Because they said, for example, they give the example of going to the airport and parking outside for a week. You can come back with a couple extra miles of range. They said you can have enough extra range to get yourself home on electric power. Again, we will have to test these and park them outside ourselves and see what we actually get in the real world. So that's still TBD as far as how much it actually helps you, but it does help you. And they said that the solar power there, it can both charge the accessory battery whenever you're up and moving, and then whenever you're parked, that's when it can actually charge the car. But this one actually will give you more range. So potentially this is a vehicle you never get stranded. You could, even if you ran out of gas.
But who's playing? It's the other Mark! There's two! Back from the TX sector. TX. It's Mark! And we're here to review Solar Fire, which is from the Disco Pinball Dimension. It was released by Williams in 1981, and it's a totally awesome pinball machine. Didn't I just say that? You did. Because we have excellent taste in pinball. I'll get right to the point. Solar Fire is a lot of fun. That's right, the game has an awesome visual style and the old school Williams sound effects. It's like I'm living in Robotron, except it's pinball. I first played this game at Pinburg 2011 at the Papa World headquarters, where they also have TX Sector, which doubled us. True dat. Word. So check this out, the game is currently being played by Bowen Cairns, one of the best pinball players on Earth. Who's, you're a little bit better than I am at pinball. You cheat! No wonder you're good. That's how I got good. That guy's overrated. But seriously though, when he's not cheating, he's pretty good. No, I'm pretty sure he's overrated. Well, he's better than I am. Yeah, I'll agree with that. He's better than you are. Did you see that he just used the MagnaSave? I love the MagnaSave. Agreed, that's one of the best features in this game. The MagnaSave is awesome. So we've got this chick here with cat eyes. These look suspiciously like old school Cylon warships. You'll probably see me shooting these targets a lot up here. There's the black hole and the horrible space alien. Oh, why are you so awesome? I'm on fire. It's Solar Fire, like the living, breathing flamethrower of pinball machines. It's got orange, it says fire. It sounds awesome. Sounds like a Robotron machine with flippers. Which is like a flamethrower that serves waffles. I mean, it's just wonderful. I love a flamethrower that serves waffles. That sounds so good right now. Did he just say a flamethrower that serves waffles? I think he did. Mark is a genius. Wait a second. Which Mark is that? It's the third one. There's 3 Marks now. Hot damn, I gotta buy more beer. Here's a look at the upper playing field, where the ball will spend a lot of time as you shoot those drop targets for crazy points. What kind of beer do you want? Whatever you want. Ask the other Mark. He said to ask you, but I want this pinball machine. We're talking about beer. Beer and pinball go together. Like flamethrowers and waffles. This button right here activates the MagnaSave. This one is for the flipper. Here's what the MagnaSave does. Love that noise. When you keep the ball in the top playing field, you score big points when you're hitting those drop targets, and there's less chance that it'll go down the middle. That's right, Mark, but if you'd like to activate MagnaSave, spell Solar, or hit the targets to activate Multi-Ball, you've got to risk playing on the lower playing field. Doesn't Mark look great in that red t-shirt? He sure does. It's like he matches the machine. This review was filmed at the Papa World Headquarters, Professional and Amateur Pinball Association in Pittsburgh, home of the World Championship. There's a gateway to the Disco Pinball Dimension, hiding beneath the TX Sector Pinball Machine. Hey, it's time to drink a beer and watch this review. That's just what I was thinking. Because Solar Fire is awesome. Because Solar Fire is awesome. That was like the greatest pinball experience of my life. Hey guys, we've got some bad. Here's the good news. We can always buy more. We can always buy more. We can always buy more. Because we're from the Disco Pinball Dimension. I'm holding a Papa duffel bag so I can carry all of my things. Like, we have a Nintendo game in here, right? Oh, t-shirts. We got t-shirts in here. Look at that.
Backpack. Oh, Papa.
Just gonna stand here and hold my t-shirt. You play blind. Okay, how's that? The score is still gonna be better than mine. It's gonna be hard.
Recognize the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO, because we all know that, looking from an historical perspective, NATO members have brought their national issues to the...
Well, in the case of the 2005 Porsche Carrera GT, just about everything you can see, touch, and experience has the supercar superlative written all over it. Rather than base its ultimate street car on the 911 platform, Porsche engineers produced a machine that's as trick and technical as a Le Mans endurance racer. The heart of the Carrera GT is a super stiff monocoque chassis made of carbon fiber reinforced composites. Bolted to the rear of the cockpit structure is a carbon fiber subframe that supports the engine and transmission. Total chassis weight a feather-light 220 pounds. It's so stiff that designers were able to include removable carbon roof panels without compromising chassis integrity. This race car chassis is supported by a pure race car suspension. The Carrera GT uses push rods and double track control arms, just like the Le Mans winning Porsche GT1. All suspension components ride on 5-spoke magnesium wheels, 19 inches up front, 20 inches in the rear, that wear special dual compound Michelin Pilot Sport tires. Driving it all is a mid-mounted 5.7-liter V10 engine. It cranks out 605 horsepower and 435 pound-feet of torque. Developed from Porsche's 5.5-liter race engine, this 68-degree dry sump design utilizes titanium connecting rods and light alloy crank and cams, as well as an ultra-compact multi-plate ceramic composite clutch, and a super smooth 6-speed manual gearbox that's transverse mounted for optimum weight distribution. Wrapped around these mechanical wonders are aggressive carbon fiber body panels. The look is distinctively Porsche, from the 911 drawn nose with its xenon headlights, past the tight athletic flanks with their huge air intakes, to the wide muscular tail with a wing that rises at 75 miles per hour and a diffuser to help manage under-car airflow. Airflow to the standard ceramic composite brakes is also carefully managed. The massive discs are almost 15 inches in diameter and are squeezed by 6-piston monoblock aluminum calipers. ABS is naturally standard, as are traction control and a 4-channel stability system, which is good because the Carrera GT has enough power to easily unhook the rear tires if you're not smooth on the go pedal. Hit it hard and the ferocious power delivery punches you back into the seat. A 911 Turbo is the only other Porsche that comes close to the reaction of the Carrera GT, and even that monster is left in the dust by the GT's wicked acceleration. The Porsche GT is capable of 0 to 60 dashes of only 3.9 seconds and has clocked a top speed of 208 miles per hour. That's just a wink slower than the Enzo Ferrari we tested last winter. But a true supercar has to be just as quick when the road turns, and with its superb balance and the excellent feedback from both the suspension and the incredibly responsive steering, the Carrera GT positively dances through the corners. While those big ceramic brakes bite down hard, allowing you to dive deeper into the corners with total confidence than you ever thought possible. In supercar fashion, it is an easy car to drive insanely fast. On more sedate pavement, the Carrera GT feels quite civilized. The ride is very firm, only getting harsh over really choppy surfaces. The engine is extremely flexible, its wide power band allowing for easy cruising even at low RPM. But the sensitive clutch requires just the right balance for a smooth start, making the Carrera GT ill-suited for crawling through stop-and-go traffic. If you do have to sit in traffic, however, the Carrera GT cockpit with its carbon fiber, magnesium, and leather trim is a stylish and well-equipped space that's both cutting-edge and traditional. The overlapping analog gauges will look familiar to any Porsche fan, while the striking magnesium trim center console houses a Bose audio system and Text and Talk navigation system, and clear, simple climate controls for the air conditioning system with pollen filter. The driver and passengers sit in comfortable Aramid carbon seat shells covered in thinly padded leather. Adjustments are manual to save weight, while the view over the hood is breathtaking. And you're protected by front and side impact airbags. Personal gear is carried in a specially designed 5-piece set of luggage that fits in every available nook and cranny. Of course, if you want one of the only 1,500 Carrera GTs that Porsche will build, bring a suitcase full of cash. Base price is a mind-boggling $442,900. If you want faster air freight delivery, that's another $15,000. A sky-high price for one of the rarest and most sophisticated cars in the world. No matter how wonderful past Porsche efforts, the 2005 Porsche Carrera GT still surprises with its overwhelming capabilities. Yet it is also a design that never forgets that mere mortals are behind the wheel. It is indeed a supercar in every sense of the word.
Apparently, one of the main reasons the United States wanted to get rid of him
platform of the alliance whenever any particular topic came to the agenda.
Let's to thank one of our sponsors, Farmers Insurance.
I've seen this movie before.
You have?
Sure. This is the part where all is lost and the hero searches for hope. Then a mysterious figure reminds her that she has the Farmer's Home Policy Perk Guaranteed Replacement Cost, and that her home will be rebuilt regardless of her limits or if the cost of materials has gone up.
That's really something.
Get a whole lot of something with Farmer's Policy Perks. Wait, I didn't ruin the ending, did I?
Yeah, you did.
We are farmers, bum 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 bum.